Hello and welcome to the PlugStar Electric Vehicle Sales Training by Plug in America. Quite frankly, we are really glad you're here because as more and more drivers are making the switch to electric, they need you to answer their questions, show them the awesome benefits and unique considerations that come with EVs, and hopefully sell them their next car. That's where we can help. This PlugStar program is a nationwide EV sales training, certification, and ongoing support program for automotive sales professionals who want to know more about the EVs arriving at your dealerships and how to sell them quickly and confidently. We've trained thousands of salespeople at hundreds of dealerships nationwide and have discovered that PlugStar trained sales staff sell 4 times more EVs than their untrained counterparts. Plus, hundreds of thousands of people use the plugstar.com website to search for EVs, so we really know these customers and what they're looking for. Once you complete this training, you will be a PlugStar EV specialist, recognized as a trusted advisor with the knowledge and know-how to guide customers who are considering making the switch to an EV. Your whole dealership can also be eligible for PlugStar certification if they meet certain requirements, so just reach out if that's something that you and your dealership are interested in. Last but not least, who is Plug in America? Plug in America is a member-driven organization whose mission is to accelerate widespread electric vehicle adoption. PlugStar is Plug in America's turnkey dealer accreditation and support program, helping dealers and salespeople like you to drive EV sales. So let's go over what we're going to learn in this training. Number 1, we're going to equip you to answer frequent customer questions common to all plug-in vehicles. EV customers are unique in that they're purchasing a new type of technology with more questions, and these questions are very different from customers who are purchasing a regular gas vehicle. Number 2, we're going to share sales techniques and best practices unique to EVs so that you can sell them as quickly and efficiently as possible. And number 3, we're going to share how PlugStar can help you sell more EVs with training, tools, and support. With that, please help me welcome our instructor for today, Tom Malogny. Hi, Tom.
How you doing, Ariana?
I'm great. I am just so thrilled to have you here today. Can you give us a quick introduction?
Sure. So my name is Tom Malogny, and I have been driving electric vehicles for over 13 years now as my daily drivers. I've owned 7 different electric vehicles. I'm also a senior editor at the largest electric vehicle dedicated website in the world, Inside EVs. I've been writing and covering the EV scene for about 12 years. I also am the host of the YouTube channel State of Charge, which is dedicated to really explaining electric vehicle charging. As well as in my spare time, I work with Plug in America and the PlugStar program.
Tom, we are so lucky and so excited to have you. Like you said, you have 12 years of experience with EVs and are just such a pro. So let's take a look at our lesson plan. We have 5 modules: EV basics and selling EVs, EV charging, selling used EVs, EV consumer incentives, and what you get from PlugStar. These are all meant to be overarching topics about the EV ecosystem and is meant to support and bolster the more specific EV training that you'll receive from each car's manufacturer. There's a quiz at the end of each module, so be sure to fill those out. And with that, Tom, take it away with EV basics and selling EVs.
Okay, so let's just take a look at the 30,000-foot view down at electric vehicles. When we talk about electric vehicles here, we're talking about vehicles that plug in and charge. I know the term is used sometime with regular hybrids, HEVs, they call them hybrid electric vehicles, but we're not really talking about them here today. When we refer to an electric vehicle, it's a vehicle that you can plug in and charge the battery, and there's 2 different types of those. First, you have your battery electric vehicle, or BEVs, B-E-V for short, and those are fully electric vehicles. There's no combustion engine. It's 100% electric. You have a big battery and an electric motor that powers the car. Now with pure electric vehicles, BEVs, there's typically higher incentives available. There's a lot less maintenance because there's very little maintenance needed on pure electric vehicles. And they're great for customers that have the ability to either charge at home or at work, because since there's no backup system that plug-in hybrids have, which we're going to get into next, you really need to be able to charge the vehicle on a daily basis or at least a couple of times a week. Now let's take a look at plug-in hybrids. These are vehicles that you can plug in and charge the battery, but there's a secondary power source. That's an internal combustion engine. So the vehicle will go a certain distance on pure electric, and then the gas engine turns on once the battery is exhausted, so you can continue driving. There are incentives for plug-in hybrids, but they're typically lower than the incentives for purely electric vehicles. And they do have less maintenance than pure gas vehicles, but it's not as low as the pure electric BEVs. And they're actually suitable for anybody because you can charge it at home. If you can't charge at home, you can drive it for a while as a pure gas vehicle and then charge it when you have the ability to. So plug-in hybrids actually will work for anybody, even those customers that maybe a BEV doesn't fit into their lifestyle right now. So next, take a quick look at the EV battery warranty. Now, this is something that a lot of people are concerned with. We've done a lot of polls out there, and it seems like the battery, how long it lasts, how much it costs to replace, that's a big concern for a lot of your customers. And we're here to tell you that you should be able to convince your customers that this isn't a problem. EV batteries last a long time. In fact, there's a federal mandate that the warranty has to be at least 8 years and 100,000 miles. Now, some manufacturers have even longer battery warranties than that. So, make sure you know exactly what your warranty is so you can convey that to the customer. But it has to be at least 8 years and 100,000 miles. And, another question that people have about the batteries is, are they safe? Do these go on fire? You hear every time an electric vehicle has a fire, it makes the news. Meanwhile, there's hundreds of fires on gas vehicles every day, but they don't make the news because, well, we know gas vehicles go on fire. It's a lot of stored energy, you're going to have a fire. But the fact of the matter is we have a lot of data out there now on electric vehicles and their fires. And electric vehicles are much less likely to have a fire. There's only about 25 fires for every 100,000 electric vehicles sold, compared to over 1,500 fires for the same amount of vehicles sold with gas vehicles. So electric vehicles actually have a lot less likelihood of catching on fire than a gas vehicle does. And here's another thing that's really interesting when you want to talk about safety. The chance of injury in a crash with an electric vehicle is actually lower than it is with a gas or diesel vehicle. There's a few reasons for that. But the biggest reason is actually the fact that there's no engine in front of the vehicle. That becomes an entire crumple zone to absorb the energy in when you do have a crash. So if you take a look, electric vehicles actually have higher safety ratings than their comparable gas or diesel counterparts.
Wow, which is so great to hear because I remember, I'm newer to the EV space. It's just the last couple of years I switched to an EV, and genuinely one of my concerns was you hear about, oh, they can catch fire. You have this huge battery that you're basically hurling down the road. And I think there were just misconceptions about the safety of that. But that's great to hear that these are actually safer than gas cars. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. The fact of the matter, Ariana, is now that this is a relatively new technology, people are very interested in it. It's a hot button technology, right? So whenever an electric vehicle catches on fire, it makes the 5 o'clock news.
Of course.
It's online. There's pictures of an electric vehicle fire. Meanwhile, on that same day, there are hundreds of gas car fires around the country, but they never make the news because, well, gas cars go on fire. Listen, anytime you store energy, a lot of energy, whether it's in a battery or in a gas tank, there's the chance it can catch on fire. But one cool thing about EV batteries is when in the event that there is a fire, it typically gives you a lot of time to get out of the vehicle safely. As opposed with a gas fire, the entire vehicle can get engulfed in flames really quickly, and you can get trapped in the vehicle. With EVs, typically that's not how it works. Usually, if there is a fire, that you get warnings, exit the vehicle, battery malfunction, and then maybe a half an hour later, the vehicle catches on fire.
Oh, wow.
So, it actually, even when there is a fire, it's safer than being in a gas vehicle that goes on fire.
Wow. Incredible. It's awareness like this, I think by, having our sales reps out there, have this kind of awareness is going to make all the difference to give that peace of mind to customers.
Absolutely. But the one takeaway that you should have as a salesperson talking to a customer is EVs are safer, and there's less likelihood of having a fire in an EV than in a gas or diesel vehicle.
Awesome. Tom, I also wanted to ask, do you have any tips on how to prolong the battery life of your EV?
Sure. So, the battery will last a long time, even if you don't do anything specific to help it last. These are high grade, automotive grade batteries that are going to last a very long time. But there are some things that you can do to help last them, to help them last even longer. So EV batteries like to be somewhere between 20% and 80% charged. It's not great to always charge the battery to 100%, and particularly when you do, you shouldn't charge it to 100% and let it sit for a long period of time. If you're going to go away on vacation, I always recommend people just charge the car to about 70, 80% and leave it and you're fine. The same thing goes when it's very low. It's not great to always run your battery down to like under 10% state of charge. It's not a problem if you do it from time to time. But when it gets down to a very low state of charge, it's good to plug it in and get it back up over 20% in that 20 to 80% range I was talking to you about. It's not good to let your battery get down really low, say 5% charged, and then park it for like a couple of days. That's not best practice to help ensure that your battery lasts a long time.
Mm-hmm. And this is just basic battery technology. Is this specific to EVs or no?
So yeah, as I mentioned, EVs use special automotive grade battery cells, and they're even from EV to EV, there's different chemistries. So this is really specific to EV batteries. It's generally not good to let any battery get really low and just let it sit for a while. But the specific chemistries for electric vehicle batteries are really formulated so that 20 to 80, some people even say 30 to 80, really is that sweet spot to keep the battery happy and healthy for a long time. Okay, the next thing let's take a look at are some of the key electric vehicle selling points. There's really what we like to point out to the customers, and some of the customers coming in may already know some of these, but these are the four real main selling points that we like to talk about. Now, number one, EVs are very powerful. If you've ever driven an EV, you know what that instant torque is. As soon as you step on the accelerator, you get thrown back in your seat. You don't get that with gas or diesel vehicles, even the really strong, high performance ones. That's because electric vehicles have instant torque. As soon as you depress that accelerator, you get thrown back into your seat. Now, they're cleaner electric vehicles, and they're getting more clean every year as the grid gets cleaner. So this is something that I think a lot of people already know, and it's something that you probably want to feel out your customer first before you start talking about the cleanliness of the vehicle, because a lot of people don't even care about that. A lot of people are interested in EVs because they're powerful and they're fun to drive. So one of the things you want to do is when you're approaching your customer, you kind of feel them out a little bit and say, well, what are the key selling points that they want to hear, because they don't want to hear everything here. Some people really aren't interested in the cleanliness of an electric vehicle, but they are cleaner, so you always can just bring that up. You just don't have to dwell on it. We also like to say EVs are everywhere, and EV charging infrastructure is proliferating across the country. We have so many DC fast charging stations out there now, thousands of them, with dozens being added every month. You can honestly drive just about anywhere you need in the country. That wasn't the case only a couple of years ago. There was really a disconnected EV infrastructure. We didn't have major corridors connected like we have now, and we're adding more and more every month. So there's actually public charging stations pretty much throughout the country. There's some dead zones in middle America, some of the more real rural areas. But those are getting filled as we add charging stations every month. We also like to talk about cheaper, which is an interesting thing because most people think about electric vehicles and they think, well, they're more expensive than gas cars, and that's why I'm not going to get one. They look at an EV that might cost $40,000 and they say, well, the comparable gas car costs $35,000, and I don't have that extra $5,000, or I don't want to spend an extra $5,000. But you have to look at the total cost of ownership. You can't just look at the MSRP, because there's incentives on electric vehicles. federal incentives up to $7,500. There's also state incentives. There's local incentives. And the refueling of the vehicles are going to cost you a lot less with electric vehicles. You plug your vehicle in at home if you have the ability to charge at home. You wake up every morning with a full tank and a nice pre-warmed, comfortable cabin if it's in the winter. And we always like to say with electric vehicles, if you want to compare it to what it costs for a gas vehicle, it's almost like paying $1 to $2 per gallon, and you're charging at home. So it costs much less to fuel an electric vehicle, and that adds up to thousands of dollars of savings over the years. There's also a lot less maintenance. With electric vehicles, you basically have to change the tires and the wiper blades, and you don't have to do oil changes, tune-ups, belts, mufflers don't rot out. There's just very little maintenance to do. So the vehicle may cost a little bit more up front, but if you look at total cost of ownership over just a few years between the incentives, the lower fueling costs, the less maintenance, you're actually paying less for the EV than you were for the gas car.
Just thinking about it that way, I live in California, but all across the country, looking at the gas prices, it has been just devastating, I think, for so many people economically. And if you just think $1, $2 equivalent per, gallon of gas, right, in energy, it's really right there. You start to immediately see the savings right away. Not only that incentive when you purchase the car, of course, but that week, that month, that year, you're seeing those savings.
Absolutely. And another thing, Ariana, that's important is you have your fuel cost stability. With gasoline, the market goes crazy. You could be paying $7 a gallon next month. It might drop down to $3 a gallon 6 months later, and then you might be up to $5 a gallon next year. It just does this, gas prices. It's with electricity. Electricity rates are typically very stable. Do they go up over the long term? Of course they do. Everything goes up, but they go up very stably. You almost could predict what it's going to cost you to refuel your vehicle 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And particularly for fleet managers that run electric vehicles for businesses, that's fantastic. They can have cost certainty on their fueling. With gas, you have no idea what that gas or diesel is going to cost 6 months from now. You could have one storm that knocks out a refinery and gas goes up 50% the next month. That doesn't happen with electricity. The cost is very stable.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. Well, that concludes Module 1, EV Basics and Selling EVs. So now it's your turn. You can go ahead and take the quiz and prove to yourself that you are ready to take your new knowledge out onto the dealership floor. We'll see you in Module 2.